Well, the ONI Archives video for Halo 4 is released, seemingly bringing the series to a close, at least for now. And like Halo 4 itself, this one was pretty damn lore intensive. I haven't been this excited about one of these since the mysterious audio from Halo 2's ONI Archives. There's actually a funny parallel there between the ONI Archives videos for Halo 2 and 4 and the games themselves, as those games both have lore-intensive stories and both are considered to be the best Halo game in terms of story in the wider community, at least from what I've seen. Anyway, this video confirms a number of theories and ideas we've had since that Halo 2 video dropped, and brings in a ton of new threads and tie-ins to break down. So, let's dive in. Naturally, this starts with a recap of the end of Halo 3, the period of expansion and growth in the following years, and concludes with the awakening of the Promethean threat on Requiem. Pretty much what we'd expect. And then, of course, we get into the transmission suspended section, the interesting stuff. Normally I'd play the full audio, then break everything down, but this final transmission is 3.5 minutes long, so I'll play it in chunks and then break it all down.
Have you run all the latest firmware updates?
As far as I know.
We should check to be sure. The latest functionality protocols for GBA 0983-6 require an alias-wide compliance to set the newest security permissions to active status.
Well, run whatever you need. We're just trying to get all the hurdles out of the way in order to start taking greater advantage of our available resources.
All understandable. Shouldn't take too long to propagate.
How's she doing overall?
Remarkably well, all things considered. As far as I can tell, at least.
She certainly has exceeded our initial expectations in a lot of ways. Now it's just got me watching the clock a bit.
Indeed.
How long is she supposed to be out of commission for?
Unknown. My orders were unclear as to the nature of her requested stasis.
Of course they were. Well, hopefully this little detour is a short one for our little friend here. Our department had big plans for her. We'll figure something out, though. I think there are some interesting opportunities ahead if we play our cards right.
Upload complete. All relevant matrices have been updated and secured for immediate delivery to Commander Rossbach. Do you have any further questions before I sign off?
None that you'd be able to answer, I'd imagine. But thank you for your help. See that she's in good hands.
Request confirmed.
So right off the bat, we have some interesting goings-on here. The unknown comms officer who has narrated and starred in this series is talking with an unidentified comms AI, probably a dumb AI by the sound of its voice, about running firmware updates on another AI. Now, if you don't recall, dumb AIs are basically pure computer programming. Powerful and capable, but incapable outside of their often specialized roles, and certainly unable to learn. They are a product of traditional programming, unlike smart AIs, which are created from the scans of human brains. This also means that dumb AIs aren't susceptible to rampancy. Also, I feel like the mention of firmware updates specifically might be a nod at Cortana mentioning updating the Chief's Mjolnir firmware in Halo 4, but I could be reading too much into things there. Back to the audio, the other AI in this bit is GBA 0983-6, better known as Gabriella, the smart AI assigned to Outpost Discovery. The discussion about Gabriella goes on to talk about updating protocols and implies that she might be reaching the end of her life. We don't know exactly when Gabriella was created, but it was sometime before or around August of 2552. As these videos are set right before Halo 5, or at least this moment is set right before Halo 5 in October of 2558, as you'll see in a moment, that would put Gabriella in, at best, the final year of her expected lifespan. As the conversation continues, it's noted that Gabriella requested a period of stasis, the unknown comms officer lamenting this as his department had, quote, big plans for her, seemingly something beyond running Outpost Discovery. As this section comes to a close, the comm AI notes that Gabriella is ready for delivery to Commander Rossbach, and here is where we get into the heavy stuff. Commander Rossbach is not a real person, but a quote-unquote shell personality created by the AI Black Box, and its first and only prior appearance is in the short story Rossbach's World from Halo Fractures. In that short story, Black Box, or BB, evacuates Admirals Saren Osman and Terrence Hood, along with Spartan Orzel as an escort, to a secret world known as Rossbach's World, along with 8 other AI chips. Discovered in 2556, BB had managed to intercept its discovery and keep it secret, creating an emergency safe haven on the world should he ever need it. and as Cortana prepared her created uprising, the need arose. The story only ever identifies the quote-unquote Sankar AI as one of the other AIs, that being the AI created from the mind of former ONI operative Maya Sankar, aka Pharaoh, who was murdered on the colony of Laika 3 during a Guardian Awakening on October 28th. Now it seems that Gabriella was one of those AIs that BB had evacuated to Rossbach's world. Interestingly, it's noted that Gabriella requested a period of stasis, and the way I see it, there are a couple ways to look at this. First, Gabriella requested this because of the imminent Guardian attack, be it she was contacted by Cortana or another created and refused the offer, or was informed by BB. It's never made clear how BB figured out Cortana's plan, but whatever. The second option is BB spoofing a stasis request for Gabriella. I'm personally leaning towards the latter option, but it's all up in the air at this point. Regardless, I hope this means that we'll get to see more of Gabriella in the future. Rossbach's world ended on a cliffhanger, with Sarah and Osmond debating about whether to awaken these AI and talk over their options of either staying loyal to the UNSC or joining the Created, or destroying them before they could be used against humanity. Basically, does Saren make the same choice as Dr. Halsey, robbing others of their choice, or does she offer them true freedom? I can't wait for the answer to that. Getting back to the video though, one last thing I want to note in this section at the top left of the screen is that we can see the words Facility 4400, Workstation 745-35, and as far as I can tell, nothing like this has appeared in previous videos. We've never had a confirmation of where these videos and audio are being recorded, and while we might not have been at Facility 4400 this entire time, we at least have something of a location for this last bit. Audio we'll be listening to in a moment directly mentions Swanbourne, a city in Australia, and ONI headquarters Bravo 6 is located in Sydney, Australia. So Facility 4400 could be in Australia, or our unknown comms officer could just be visiting Australia. Comms producer Monica Angelo does mention HQ later on, but that doesn't necessarily mean ONI HQ. But anyway, moving on, let's listen to the next section of audio.
That will be 23 credits.
Thank you.
Thanks for the chat. So, you're going off-site for a bit, I hear.
Swanbourne. Visiting a friend in 5832.
Nice. All business?
Not all. Actually, wouldn't mind catching a wave or two while I'm out there.
Well, we'll be waiting for you when you get back. We've still got to talk about distribution channels in some of the outer colonies and...
Warning. Combat alert alpha.
What the hell?
Warning.
My comms are blowing up. And I'm not sure if I'm believing what I'm reading. It doesn't make any sense. I need to get back to the office.
I don't know if that's such a good idea. Something tells me we need to get out of here, now. I can make a secure spot on my shuttle right now and initiate a priority departure. The office will still be there when you get back.
I can't just abandon things here. You go. Ping me when you get to Swanbourne and I'll give you an update from HQ.
409er. You are clear for emergency departure. Roger that, Control.
Come on. Let's go already.
So, the big thing of note here is the arrival of the Guardian. There's an initial warning of some kind of incoming threat, then a flash forward to the comms officer hoping his shuttle will take off in time, and finally the comms are cut as the Guardian pulse hits, ending the transmission. We skip forward a year and hear this from Codename Fixer.
This is Status Beacon Hotel 773, Drop 9. It's been close to a year since primary comms went dark. What little info I've been able to pull from scanner drops in range hasn't exactly been illuminated. I'm attempting to confirm data on Operations Breaker Trip, Wolf, and Kickstand. I'm not exactly sure who is planning what, but we need to do something. Uploading local scan data now. Blackout encryption engaged.
So, tons more to break down here. A year later, October of 2559, Fixer has apparently been making transmissions from an unknown location, pulling information from where he can, limited as it is. He specifically mentions 3 operations. The big one is, of course, Operation Wolf, this being the name of the operation Blue Team undertakes in Halo Shadows of Reach, the operation to recover 3 cryo bins and a box with the mark of Sword Base on it from Halsey's lab under Castle Base. In addition, he mentions Operations Breaker Trip and Kickstand. These are brand new names at this time. Assuming they're even remotely descriptive, Breaker Trip sounds like it would have something to do with an effort to either get something online or shut something down. Maybe disrupt a communications channel for the created or set up some kind of defense for the UNSC? Kickstand sounds like something of a support operation, something to let the remnants of the UNSC continue operating despite what must be a horrible shortage on supplies and materiel. But those are just my guesses. Let me know yours in the comments below. And the last main things to break down here are the file and link names. The file is 2020-11-17, November 17th, 2020, the release date of Halo 4 on PC, and the link is 2012-11-06, November 6, 2012, Halo 4's original release date. These ONI archives have been a hell of a ride, from something innocuous to a new mystery and story being told in an almost ARG-esque manner. The mysterious anomalies and new problems mentioned early on turned out to be the emerging Guardian/created threat, and we got an absolutely fascinating look at an aspect of the Halo universe that we haven't really peeked into in a long time: the propaganda. Hunt the Truth gave us something of an outsider's perspective on it, but this time we get to see, so to speak, the folks behind the propaganda, the people doing the day-to-day production. And along the way, we got some fun, lore-laden Easter eggs and meta jokes, along with a few lingering mysteries. I get the feeling that we'll hear more about Operations Breaker Trip and Kickstand as we get closer to Infinite's release, or in the time to follow, be that from Infinite itself or expanded media. In a broader sense, I hope 343 can continue something like these ONI Archives videos going forward, as they have been some of my favorite forms of ad media. It's hard to imagine what form they could take going forward that would preserve the atmosphere these videos manage to capture, but then again, they don't really have to. They don't even have to continue at all. If this was all we ever got from this particular series, I'd be content with that. One mystery that will likely never be resolved, though, is the identity of our comms officer. However, I did want to mention one cool idea from Covenant Canon that he presented on Twitter: that this officer took over Ben Giroux's job after the investigative journalist was disgraced on Galactic TV and moved to Midnight Facility by ONI. These videos are being produced just prior to Halo 5's setting, though how far out isn't entirely clear save for this most recent video, and they do accomplish a similar job to what ONI was requesting of Ben. It's a cool headcanon for now, if nothing else. Now, before we go, I briefly want to talk about the footage that's playing in the background of this, the footage that makes up the new menu for MCC. First of all, it's absolutely gorgeous, and my bias for Halo 4 might be showing here, but I think it's my favorite to date. Certainly, I love the motif of the Mark 6 mod and the broker armor mechanism. But in addition to the beautiful visuals, there are some small details worthy of note. In one scene, we can see that John is way overdue for several tests. Psychology monitoring scheduled for January 1st, 2553, augmentation maintenance scheduled for December 15th, 2552, just a few days after the conclusion of the Battle of the Ark, and an interlace synchronization test that was scheduled for March 2nd, 2553, just 5 days before John's 42nd birthday. An interesting takeaway here is the augmentation maintenance bit, though. The idea of a Spartan being maintained was first introduced in Halo New Blood, with the Spartan Field Manual noting that Spartan 4s need constant tune-ups, as Tedric Grant puts it, a consequence of being augmented as adults. Here we can see that Spartan 2s need augmentation monitoring as well, though likely not to the same degree as the 4s. Not much else to mention there, just a beautiful background. For now, that wraps up the ONI Archives series. What did you think of it? What lingering questions do you have in its wake? Let me know in the comments below. For now, this has been Halo Canon, and I'll see you all next time for Halo Shadows of Reach. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and if you really love me, hit that notification bell and leave a thumbs up. These both really help out the channel. I wouldn't be where I am now without your views and support, so once again, thank you. Keep on being awesome, Canonites.